three weeks before the end of our season, and we had a massive bank of business, and it just Assissippi none of our businesses are high profit industries, so those last 3 weeks were what would make Assissippi be okay. And so it made the difference between whether or not Assissippi was okay and not being okay.
Right.
Yeah.
The damage was, as Rand said, was horrific. In those 3 weeks, we lost a few pennies short of $600,000 in sales, and that's the end of the season. And at the end of the season, that's where all your profit is.
Right.
And your expenses are already beaten. It was devastating.
Of course, yeah. Now, due to COVID, did you have to change any operating hours of your businesses? Did you have to change the opening and closing time of any of your businesses?
We did. It affected the operating hours of all businesses that are customer based, right?
Now, did you have to reduce employee hours or even lay people off in order to keep the business running?
Yeah, sure did.
Mm-hmm.
But did we lay off, Rand, the first round, 58 people the first time?
Okay, so what changes did you have to make in order to adapt to how COVID changed the way the business is done, such as plexiglass between employees, roadside pickup, anything like that?
I'm going to start answering that question. There were a lot of adaptations super quickly. I think that our government leaders, I can't imagine how difficult it would be to be in a leading position in government these days. So many people are dependent upon it, and so many people are saying to them, we don't know what to do, and that's what we said to the government. We don't know what to do. We're waiting for you to tell us. Well, they didn't know what to do either. So we had to start. So we met every day, Damon and Leanne and I, and we said, let's just do as much research as we can and start implementing things, and then we'll wait to hear from them what to do. So we felt that the mask policies, we stopped renting rooms out to guests until we got the electrostatic fog machine. We would leave 72 hours between guests. We started asking people to mask when they entered all of our public spaces. The difficult part with that is we're asking people to mask to protect each other and to protect our staff. But the problems we encountered with that were that our staff had to police that. Mm-hmm. And we know that some, and I'm not sure if you ever heard it, but some staff who were politely asking people to put a mask on were met with some hostile response. Yeah. And so then we struggled with that, right? How do we police it? Just additional cleaning measures, put hand sanitizer out everywhere.
So what we're proud of, Ms. Abram, is that our company was 10 days ahead of any federal or provincial decision on spacing, on room rentals. When the government announced something, we had all chuckled because we're already doing it for 10 days, so we were ahead of it.
Right.
Yeah.
We spent, Rand, about $30,000 on plexiglass already.
Wow. And
the framing or the cost to frame it, install it, that's just to buy the plexiglass.
Yeah.
Wow. We have spent about $5,000 on masks, on disposable masks, and we probably spent $10,000 on sanitizer already, like hand sanitizer already.
That's those are big numbers. I don't see the invoices, you do. So.
Okay.
We had staff outside the C-store handing out free masks before it was mandatory.
Wow, that's great, yeah.
We taped the corridors to just force people to think about it. And you can see people now walking like they do down the highway, one side of the highway or not. Mm-hmm. We've been very creative. We shut the pool tables early. We shut the computers early. We invested $20,000 in Tim Hortons and self-serve terminals. We shut them, get people to cluster around them to order.
Right.
So the self-serve stations have been shut off as well.
Okay.
Okay, so you mentioned masks, but was there any other cleaning regulations you put in place to really just enforce, cleanliness?
So, and there's a Clean It Right program that's put out by the provincial government And so 100% of our staff have done the Clean It Right program. And so everybody knows the proper protocols. Of course, everything is cleaned with extra measures in all the food service areas, in the guest rooms. And Wes, our food and beverage manager and executive chef, he researched these electrostatic machines that it's a chemical that's approved for cleaning and is it mitigating or 99% killing COVID-19, but approved by Ecolab, which is Ecolab is approved to supply to the hospitality industry by the federal government. And so this sprays a fine mist. It's just an additional layer. It's not to replace the other cleaning, but it's an additional layer of protection.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, how have your employees dealt with the regulations in place? Have they, been all for it, or have they kind of been a little, just hesitant for it?
Yeah, Leanne would answer that best, but right from the beginning, we've said to everybody, we only need you to work if you feel safe working.
Of course, yeah.
Right, and then we'll put whatever we can in place to help you get the support that you need from the government if you choose not to work. There are a few employees that still don't feel safe coming back, and they, some of them we've found other work for that keeps them away from the public. We can't do that for everybody, but some are still on government programming, which is excellent. Thank you, Government of Canada.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's saved our staff, right?
Yep.
And our company. We would not be here if it were not for the programs put in place by the federal government. We would have had, we'd be having an auction after this. But as far as the cleaning protocols, I have not heard. No, our staff are all
for it.
All for it. No, yeah, there's been no one who said. We get really worried about our housekeeping staff because some of them come from a work culture where you just do what you're told, and which is kind of an exploitive work culture, and that's not the Canadian way. We get a little bit worried about whether or not they're telling us how safe they feel, but I think Leanne does a good job reaching out to them. What do you think, Damon?
I ran bang on the head, and I'm going to add one more comment. There's nobody better than rural people, rural Manitoba, rural Saskatchewan people. They are the salt of the earth Canadian people that are still old school neighbors, thoughtful and considerate, and they also still know about civic duty, and the bulk of us believe in that. And it shows in our staff, Ryan.
Yeah, it really does show in our staff. Yep. New and old,
New and,
yeah.
Yep. It's part of the rural DNA.
It really is. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
COVID-19 had a devastating effect on Canada's economy. The Canadian government implemented many government aid programs such as EI. Even though these implements were necessary, it affected the economy negatively. During the first months of the lockdown, the Canadian dollar dropped dramatically. At one point, it dropped to 70 cents to the US dollar. Oil also saw a dramatic drop in price per barrel, as at one point, the kids' game Barrel of Monkeys was worth more than a barrel of oil. Throughout the pandemic, many health regulations were put in place to help prevent the spread of COVID-19, such as masks. Now, masks were put in place in countries during the pandemic. Many businesses around the world require you to wear a mask when in their store. Another commonly used practice to slow down the spread of the disease is sanitization. Almost every business has a place where customers can sanitize their hands, and some even offer masks for those who do not have any. An implementation made by the government to slow the spread was social distancing. The idea of this was to get people to get 2 meters distance from each other. So, do you believe masks work?
It's been a long 6 months, 7 months, whatever we've been doing this. I'm not sure that they work. I really sincerely believe that I have to trust experts who know better than me. And if I have doctors and scientists who have been spending their careers working on this, or dealing with things that I don't know, then I'm going to believe the experts who are going to tell me to wear a mask.
Right, of course. Okay. How did you cope with COVID during lockdown?
I, for the most part, work from home, so that was a coping mechanism on my part. And I had the opportunity to work from home or come to school and work. So if I found it being too much at home because the rest of my family was at home, I could come to work. So that was a really good way for me to cope. And you know, I found it just coping overall because everybody had the same rules to follow.
Right.
Everyone was in lockdown.
Right.
So, you know, knowing, I don't know if that's the right thought, but just knowing that everyone around me is going through the same thing, like the ability to empathize it helped. That was a coping strategy as well.
Of course, yeah. Now, did you change any major aspects of your life during lockdown? Like any regular routines you normally
Oh
do?
yeah, I'm very social. Our family's social.
Right.
That ended.
Of course, yeah.
And you know, coming to work every day and us going to, like, my kids going to school every day, that of course ended. Having to, you know, be in lockdown with my family 24/7, you know, that was interesting on its own. We were together a lot. It did force me to make my life slow down because I couldn't drive my kids to their extracurricular, couldn't take them to the extracurricular. That all ended, and that, you know, that was kind of nice. The slowdown of life was really, that was a benefit of the lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
Life just slowed down. Another thing, my salary, my wage was not affected, so I did not have the stress of wondering where my income or my husband's was coming from. We could still provide for our family just the same as we did before.
Right, of course. Okay, well, thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.
As with all things, many wild conspiracies have been developed during the lockdown, such as COVID was made in the lab by the Chinese in Wuhan as a bioweapon and the bioweapon got out. Another theory is that it's just an excuse by the government to spread fear. And the craziest theory is that the purpose of COVID is to eliminate overpopulation, and when the vaccine does come out, it will just infect more people and result in more killing of the elderly and those with a compromised immune system, leaving only the strong to survive. Now, let me ask you a question. Where do we go from here? My answer to this is that only time will tell. And it is up to us to take action when that time comes. For those students who stop. I'm not. Throughout the pandemic, many health regulations economy. The Canadian government implemented.
Come on!
Throughout the pandemic, many health regulations.
Hello, my capitalist friend.
Hello, my communist friend. I've heard you've had a recent
Hello, my money-loving America. Oh, oh no!